For more than 2 centuries, the White House has been the heart of power in America. Presidents have walked its halls, world-changing decisions have been made in its rooms, and yet behind the grandeur, a darker presence lingers. Footsteps echo where no one walks. Whispers drift through empty corridors, and shadowy figures appear in the corner of your vision. Guards, staff, and even presidents have felt it. A chilling weight in the air, sudden drops in temperature, doors opening on their own, and fleeting apparitions that vanish before your eyes. Some believe it is grief, some unfinished business, and some say it is the restless spirit of those whose lives ended too soon. Tonight, we step beyond history and politics, beyond the ceremonies and press conferences, to explore the hidden world of the White House, a place where the living are watched and the dead never truly left. Our journey begins with the most famous of all its visitors, a presence that has haunted the residents for decades: Abraham Lincoln. The haunting legacy of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln's presence in the White House is the most documented and chilling of all its hauntings. Tall, imposing, and unmistakably somber, his spirit has been seen by presidents, first ladies, and visitors for over a century. Eleanor Roosevelt once recounted a cold night in the Lincoln bedroom, describing a figure she could not mistake for anyone else, standing silently, watching, yet emanating sorrow so deep it seemed to press against the walls themselves. Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands was similarly startled during her stay, witnessing a shadowed presence in the corner of the room, a figure that seemed to observe without moving. The ghost of Lincoln often appears during moments of national tension. Staff have reported footsteps pacing the bedroom late at night, soft but deliberate, echoing as though the former president is revisiting old struggles. There are tales of him standing silently at the doorway, or even knocking on the walls, as if to warn or remind the living of the burdens that leadership carries. Some reports claim that when presidents or dignitaries are confronted with difficult decisions, Lincoln's presence becomes more pronounced, a spectral observer of the very weight he once bore. Historians speculate that his violent assassination left an imprint on the White House unlike any other. His grief for a nation, compounded by personal loss, may explain the intensity of his appearances. Staff and visitors alike describe a tangible feeling of melancholy, a sensation that seems to settle over rooms where he is most often seen. Even today, new accounts surface: shadows at the corner of your eye, a sudden drop in temperature, or the faint creak of floorboards in an otherwise silent wing. Some believe Lincoln's spirit is protective, watching over the house he once called home, ensuring the legacy of the presidency remains intact. Others argue it is the weight of his sorrow, trapped in these walls, replaying moments of anguish and fear. Each story reinforces the undeniable fact: Abraham Lincoln never truly left. But while Lincoln's sorrow hangs heavy in these rooms, the grief of his family left another presence behind, one far more innocent, yet just as haunting, a child who still walks these hallways today. Willie Lincoln, the child who never left. The sorrow of the Lincoln family did not end with the president himself. Willie Lincoln, the young son who died tragically at just 11 years old, is said to roam the hallways of the White House even today. Unlike his father's imposing figure, Willie appears as a small, almost fragile presence, yet one that carries the unmistakable weight of loss. Staff and first ladies over the years have reported glimpses of a young boy, sometimes peeking from behind doorways, or appearing silently in the corridors outside Lincoln's bedroom, as if lingering near his father. The encounters are not always visual. Some describe the sensation of a small hand brushing theirs, the faint laughter of a child echoing softly down empty halls, or the sudden chill that fills a room when no doors or windows are open. Several former aides and maids recounted the unmistakable feeling of being watched, a presence both innocent and mournful, tied to the profound grief that once filled the Lincoln family. Historians and paranormal experts speculate that Willie's spirit may be bound to the emotional energy of the family's tragedy, a boy caught between the living and the dead, unable to leave the place where he experienced his final days. Some reports suggest he is most visible at night, wandering silently as if seeking comfort, while others claim he interacts gently, almost playfully, with those who linger in the hallways long after official hours. The lingering presence of Willie Lincoln serves as a haunting reminder that the White House is more than marble halls and historic rooms. It is a house of memory, of sorrow, and of lives cut tragically short. Each sighting, each unexplained sound, builds upon the spectral tapestry that began with his father, linking grief and history in ways both poignant and unsettling. Yet the White House's spirits are not confined to the Lincolns. Long before the Civil War, other founders and first ladies left their marks, their stories echoing through the East Room, the halls, and beyond. Abigail Adams in the East Room. Long before the East Room became the grand ceremonial space it is today, it served a much simpler purpose, one that left a far more personal imprint on the White House than state dinners or historic announcements ever could. When John and Abigail Adams moved into the unfinished mansion in 1800, the White House was cold, damp, and still carrying the scent of fresh plaster. The East Room had no carpets, no painted walls, and no furniture, but it had something Abigail desperately needed: warm airflow. She turned the largest room in the entire house into her personal laundry area. Sheets, shirts, table linens, and garments were hung across ropes that stretched from wall to wall, swaying gently in the draft. Day after day, she walked through the vast, empty space, tending to the fabric of her family's life. It is this simple human routine that never seemed to end. More than 2 centuries later, people still report seeing her. Residents and staff members have described a figure moving gracefully across the East Room, gliding more than walking, as if weightless. Always the same quiet silhouette, always the same purposeful motion. Sometimes she is seen carrying linens in her arms. Other times she drifts silently along the far wall, where the drying ropes once hung. Witnesses speak of garments shifting even when the air is still, or curtains swaying without a breeze. Some have turned corners only to see a misty outline vanish into the next room, her presence dissolving before they can form a word. But the sightings are only part of her lingering touch. Several presidents, staff, and night workers have reported an unmistakable smell in the East Room, the scent of soap, damp cloth, or fresh laundry. It appears suddenly, lingers for a moment, then disappears without explanation. On rare nights, the smell is so strong that guards have checked the vents, convinced that something must be leaking, only to find nothing. A soft rustling sound is sometimes heard in the empty room. The faint shifting of fabric, a gentle swish, as if someone is moving sheets from one line to another. A few have described an impression of movement in their peripheral vision, the sweep of a dress, the slow turn of a figure who seems suspended between then and now. And behind every encounter is the same unsettling feeling. Abigail Adams never truly left her post. Her presence carries none of the anger or sorrow felt with other White House spirits. Instead, it's something quieter, an echo of a woman who brought warmth and purpose to a cold, unfinished house, and whose devotion to duty remains imprinted on the room she once transformed. But not all spirits in the White House are gentle. Some are restless, some are loud, and one, in particular, is known for a temper so fierce that even death never softened it. From the calm steps of Abigail Adams, the White House leads us into its next haunting, a spirit whose rage still vibrates through the walls, whose footsteps shake the floors, and whose presence has frightened even the bravest witnesses. Prepare to face one of the mansion's most volatile ghosts, Andrew Jackson's anger from beyond. If Abigail Adams represents the gentle whisper of the White House, Andrew Jackson is its thunder. His presence is not seen, not softly felt, but violently heard. Jackson, the 7th President of the United States, was known in life for his explosive temper, fierce opinions, and unstoppable force of will. And those who have spent long nights inside the White House insist that death did little to quiet him. The Rose Room, a beautifully furnished guest room glowing with soft colors and elegant decor, is where Jackson reportedly slept during his presidency. But when the mansion falls silent at night, the room changes. Its warmth fades, its corners darken, and the peace that daylight brings begins to unravel. Witnesses have described the same chilling sequence. Heavy footsteps echo across the floorboards when no one is inside. Slow at first, then faster, then forceful, as if someone or something is pacing back and forth with intense agitation. Guards on duty at night have stepped inside after hearing the racket, only to find the room completely still, the air thick and cold, with no explanation for the thunderous movement they heard just seconds earlier. Furniture has been known to tremble slightly. Chairs have shifted. Bedposts have creaked under invisible pressure. Some claim they've heard sharp, muffled bursts of angry muttering, harsh whispers in a gravelly voice, unmistakably expressing frustration, rage, or defiance. One of the earliest and most unsettling reports came from First Lady Mary Todd Lincoln. Sensitive to spiritual matters and curious about the supernatural, she confessed that she often heard Jackson pacing the halls near the Rose Room late at night, not walking casually, but stomping, dragging his feet, and sometimes releasing what she described as the growl of a restless soul. Modern staff members have echoed similar stories. Some refuse to step into the room after dark. Others claim that whenever they enter alone, it feels like someone is standing inches behind them, watching, impatient, irritated at the intrusion. A few have reported sudden drops in temperature so extreme that their breath became visible even in the middle of summer. There are no friendly greetings from Jackson's spirit, no soft gestures, no peace, only an overwhelming sense of agitation, as if he remains locked in the battles of his lifetime. Still marching, still fuming, still fighting. But even in a place filled with loud tempers and violent pasts, the White House also holds spirits defined by loyalty, grace, and a sense of guardianship, presences that continue to protect the spaces they once cherished. Even fierce personalities can have softer sides, as another First Lady's presence lingers to protect and watch over her garden, a woman determined, even in death, to keep her legacy untouched. Dolly Madison and the Rose Garden. If Andrew Jackson's presence roams the White House with fury, Dolly Madison lingers with quiet, unwavering authority, a spirit of elegance who refuses to let time or caretakers rewrite what she created in life. During her tenure as First Lady, Dolly Madison shaped more than politics. She shaped the White House itself. Among her contributions was the iconic Rose Garden, a place she tended with devotion, arranging its paths and flowers with a vision only she understood. After her death in 1849, her influence should have faded. But the garden never forgot her, and neither, it seems, did the White House. For decades, gardeners have whispered about strange encounters, moments when their tools went missing, hands turned cold, or a sudden rush of air brushed past them as they tried to prune or change the garden's layout. Workers tasked with redesigning the grounds have reported the same chilling event. An unmistakable figure, dressed in 19th century clothing, appearing silently beside them. Not attacking, not shouting, simply standing in quiet disapproval. One team, determined to dig up a set of rose beds, found themselves frozen in terror when a translucent woman stepped forward from among the hedges. Her dress was old, layered, elegant, her posture upright, her expression stern but dignified. The workers fled, abandoning their tools. The redesign was halted immediately. Over the years, these sightings multiplied. Visitors walking near the grounds at dusk have reported glimpsing a woman in antiquated attire, gliding through the roses, her figure drifting gently before dissolving into the shadows. Secret Service agents have admitted that motion detectors occasionally pick up movement around the garden on windless nights, even when cameras show nothing but darkness. Sometimes, guests recount being quietly guided along the pathways by a soft presence, a light touch on the shoulder, a whisper of fabric brushing past, as if Dolly herself is leading them through her cherished creation, ensuring they follow the path she once walked. Those who know the stories understand the message. The rose garden belongs to Dolly Madison. It always has, and she guards it with a devotion that transcends death. But her presence tells another story as well, that not all spirits cling to gardens and earthly beauty. Some remain bound to the deeper echoes of history, where melody and memory blend into something strange and otherworldly. And while some ghosts linger outside, others remain bound to the melodies of history. Thomas Jefferson's ghostly music. The White House has known many forms of silence: political silence, midnight silence, the heavy silence that settles before a major decision. But there is one kind of silence that unnerves even the most seasoned members of the staff: the silence that breaks without warning. For more than a century, the Yellow Oval Room has been known for a presence that speaks not with footsteps or voices, but with music, soft, delicate, hauntingly familiar music that drifts through the air like a memory repeating itself. Thomas Jefferson, a man of intellect, contradiction, and deep emotion, was also a passionate violinist. In life, he played to calm his mind. In death, it seems he still plays to soothe something far more restless. Late-night workers tell the same story. They enter the Yellow Oval Room, expecting the usual stillness. Instead, a faint melody greets them, the whisper of strings, the slow pull of a bow, drifting through the room with no visible source. Sometimes the music is soft enough to question. Other times, it is unmistakable, echoing through the corridors with the clarity of a musician standing just beyond sight. Custodians have paused mid-task, certain someone was performing in the next room, only to find empty halls. Secret Service agents have reported stepping inside during patrols, frozen by what sounded like Jefferson's favorite classical pieces, tunes documented in historical letters, and preserved recordings. No speakers, no radios, no explanation. The most unsettling encounters come when the music stops abruptly, as if the unseen violinist sensed he was being overheard. The silence that follows is heavier, thicker, like someone is still standing there, bow in hand, waiting. Some believe Jefferson plays because that room once brought him comfort, Others say the music appears during times of political turmoil, as though he is reminding those in power of the weight of their decisions. A quiet warning from one founding father to the next generation. Whatever the truth, the melodies linger. They slip beneath doors. They return when night deepens. And they leave behind the eerie impression of a musician who refuses to put down his instrument. Yet Jefferson's lingering presence is peaceful compared to what waits deeper in the White House, a spirit tied not to music, but to tragedy, and to footsteps that never found rest. Even those who lived the shortest of lives left marks, footsteps that echo in forgotten corners, like the attic where one president never truly rested. William Henry Harrison, in the attic. Harrison died 1 month after taking office. His time in the White House was brief, but reports tied to him are steady. Staff describe the attic as a place they avoid unless duty forces them inside. The space is narrow, hot, and packed with old items from past administrations. Workers enter with caution. They leave fast. Most reports describe movement, slow steps, boards shifting under weight, a steady walk from one far end to the other, then silence. Then the noise starts again. Some workers say the steps pause behind them. Others say the sound follows them down the stairs. When they turn, no one is there. Doors in the attic add to the fear. Hinges groan. Some doors close with force even when the air is still. Workers tried to blame drafts. They tested windows. They checked the vents. They found no cause. The stories continued. Temperature changes are common. One part of the attic feels normal. A few feet away, the air drops. Workers describe the cold as sudden. They feel the change before they hear the steps. Several staff members reported feeling watched, not touched, only observed. The feeling ends the moment they reach the stairs. The association with Harrison grew because of the location. Records show he often walked the upper floors during his short stay. Workers heard the stories from older staff. New workers heard the noises for themselves. The link stayed. And beyond the presidents, the land under the White House holds older voices. Some say those voices still move through the foundation. David Burns, the man who owned the land. Long before the White House became the symbol of American power, the land it sits on belonged to David Burns, a wealthy and obstinate farmer. Burns was known across the District of Columbia for his fiery temper and his refusal to yield easily to anyone, including the federal government. When plans were made to construct the presidential residence, Burns was reluctant to sell his property. He haggled fiercely, demanding fair compensation and making sure every detail favored him. Some historians note that Burns's defiance delayed construction, leaving a mark not only on the history of the White House, but, according to local lore, on the spiritual atmosphere of the land itself. Even today, decades and centuries later, visitors and staff report strange phenomena in the yellow oval room. Some hear faint whispers drifting through the space, seeming to form the cadence of a man negotiating, commanding, or simply asserting his presence. Objects appear to move subtly, almost deliberately, as though guided by invisible hands. Cold drafts appear in the corners of the room without explanation, and shadows are sometimes glimpsed moving along walls where no one is standing. Many who have spent time in the room describe a sensation of being observed, an unseen weight pressing in, as if someone familiar with every inch of the land is silently watching. The connection to David Burns seems to lie not in malevolence, but in presence. His spirit is thought to linger where he once walked, surveying the grounds he once owned, guarding the memory of his negotiations, and reminding everyone who enters that this land was hard won. Some accounts suggest that on quiet nights, when the halls are empty and the presidential residence is still, his whispers become more distinct, a low murmur, a name called a warning perhaps, echoing from the shadows. Even modern Secret Service agents have admitted to feeling sudden, unexplained pressure in the yellow oval room, or a sense of someone standing just beyond the edge of their vision. It is a haunting tide, not to tragedy or death, but to history, stubbornness, and human will, a reminder that the very ground beneath the White House holds stories long before presidents ever walked its halls. Yet the most unsettling of all may be the entity that no one can identify, a presence so disturbing and inexplicable, it strikes fear into anyone who crosses its path, leaving a chill that the thing, the unknown boy ghost. Among the countless spirits said to wander the halls of the White House, none are as unnerving or as mysterious as the entity known only as the Thing. First reported during the administration of William Howard Taft, this ghost defies explanation. Staff described a boy, pale and skeletal, with hollow eyes that seem to bore into the soul. He appears without warning, often standing silently in corridors or at the edges of rooms where no child should be. Those who encounter him report a sudden suffocating dread, a weight that presses on the chest, as if the air itself has thickened around them. Unlike other spirits, the boy does not move in a playful or mischievous way. He seems almost otherworldly, a remnant of something tragic and unresolved. Night guards have recounted feeling an icy presence behind them, turning only to find empty halls, yet the oppressive fear remains. Some describe hearing soft, mournful whispering, the sound almost like faint crying that echoes down the long, historic corridors. Others have reported fleeting glimpses, shadows that vanish the moment they are focused upon, footsteps that halt abruptly, or the feeling of being followed by an unseen entity. What makes the Thing particularly chilling is its unpredictability. There is no known identity, no historical record linking him to the White House or any family. He appears unbound by logic, untethered by time, yet his presence has left a permanent mark on those who have walked the hallways after dark. Paranormal investigators note that this boy exudes a palpable malevolence. Unlike the other spectral figures tied to grief, protection, or unfinished business, he is an anomaly, an entity that seems to exist solely to instill fear, yet with an almost conscious awareness of those around him. History has not forgotten even its enemies, including soldiers from a war that once burned Washington to the ground. Their restless steps echo through the halls, reminding the living of battles fought and lives lost. Ghost of a British Soldier, War of 1812. Long before the White House became the seat of modern power, it stood at the heart of a city under siege. During the War of 1812, British forces set fire to Washington, leaving destruction and fear in their wake. Among the haunting remnants of that night, staff and visitors over the centuries have reported encounters with a spectral British soldier. Witnesses describe seeing a figure clad in the uniform of the early 19th century, carrying a flickering torch that illuminates only his ghostly form. The soldier is not a passive apparition. Guards recount hearing the unmistakable echo of marching boots along empty corridors, sometimes accompanied by the creak of doors opening as if an entire unit were moving through the halls. At times, the torchlight glows in corners where no one stands, casting eerie shadows that twist and flicker along the historic walls. Some have reported feeling a sudden chill or a rush of air, as though the presence of an entire battalion has swept through a room. What makes this ghost particularly unsettling is the sense of purpose in his haunting. He is tied directly to one of the darkest nights in Washington's history, a reminder of the violence and chaos that once consumed the city. Paranormal experts suggest that the soldier's spirit may still be replaying the events of that night, bound to the memories of fire, smoke, and fear. Others believe he lingers to mark the ground where the White House itself narrowly survived the flames, a silent sentinel of wartime history. And these are only a few of the spirits. Countless others leave footprints in silence, shadows, and sudden chills, waiting in the corners of America's most famous home. Unnamed spirits and collective hauntings. Beyond the named figures, the White House hosts a host of enigmatic presences whose identities remain a mystery. Staff and visitors have reported shadowy shapes moving just beyond their line of sight, figures that vanish the moment they are directly observed. Footsteps echo through empty corridors, sometimes pacing, sometimes rushing, yet no one is there. Rocking chairs have been seen moving on their own in historic rooms, slowly creaking as if someone unseen rocks back and forth, lost in thought or torment. Whispering voices drift through the halls, fragments of sentences that fade when approached, leaving an unsettling tension in the air. Sudden drops in temperature are common, particularly near the Lincoln bedroom and the yellow oval room, causing staff to shiver and feel watched. Doors have been known to unlock or swing open without explanation, sometimes in the middle of the night when the building is completely empty. These occurrences are not limited to isolated rooms. The phenomena seem to ripple through the White House, as if the collective emotions of centuries past, grief, anger, joy, and fear, have taken on a life of their own. The house itself, with its historical artifacts and centuries of human presence, almost feels sentient, retaining echoes of everyone who has walked its halls. Even in modern times, the White House continues to unsettle those sworn to protect it, as new generations of guards and staff bear witness to the whispers, the shadows, and the unexplained. Paranormal encounters by modern staff. Even today, those tasked with protecting the White House report experiences that defy logic. Secret Service agents have shared accounts of hearing footsteps echoing in wings long abandoned, voices calling out from empty rooms, and doors that open or close without cause. Many refuse to patrol certain areas alone at night, particularly the upper floors and the yellow oval room, citing a sense of being watched or followed. Presidents themselves have sometimes acknowledged the unusual sensations. Some describe sudden chills in rooms where no air conditioning or open windows could explain them. Others have felt the presence of someone standing behind them, only to turn and find the space empty. Staff working late hours often report lights flickering at precise times, equipment malfunctioning inexplicably, and an overwhelming sense of unease that settles over the building in waves. Even modern renovations and security measures cannot seem to remove the eerie imprint left by centuries of life, death, and unresolved emotion. The White House, while a seat of power and history, remains a vessel of lingering energy that transcends time, leaving a mark on everyone who enters. So why does this place, the symbol of America itself, seem so haunted? The answer may lie in the weight of history and the souls that remain tethered to it. The White House is more than a residence or a seat of power. It is a repository of over 2 centuries of human emotion, ambition, and tragedy. Every corner of this historic building has witnessed moments of triumph and despair, celebrations and heartbreak, victories and violent deaths. Presidents have passed away within its walls, Children have succumbed to illness, and staff have lived and worked under immense pressure and stress, leaving echoes that linger long after they are gone. Historical artifacts, from furniture to personal belongings of former presidents and first families, seem to carry their own energy. Staff and visitors often report feeling sudden drops in temperature, a heaviness in certain rooms, or the unmistakable sensation of being watched, experiences that many paranormal researchers attribute to emotional residue left behind by those who once walked these halls. Experts theorize that the combination of trauma, grief, and intense emotion creates a perfect environment for lingering spirits. The White House has been the epicenter of national crises, wars, and political upheaval, all of which amplify the energy within. Some historians argue that the ghosts are not malevolent, but simply echoes, fragments of lives and events that refuse to fade. Others believe that the White House, as a symbol of power, may attract and hold on to spirits in a way ordinary homes cannot. Ultimately, the haunting is as complex as the history itself, a mixture of sorrow, unfinished business, and the weight of centuries pressing down on those who enter. It is this combination that makes the White House not only a home for the living, but also a crossroads for the restless dead. After centuries of footsteps, whispers, and unexplained phenomena, one thing becomes clear: the White House is never truly empty. The White House stands as a symbol of power, prestige, and history. Yet beneath its grandeur lies a world unseen. Centuries of lives lived, decisions made, and tragedies endured have left their marks, and the echoes of the past continue to ripple through its halls. What appears as polished rooms and historic portraits also hides footsteps that should not be there, whispers that defy explanation, and presences that watch silently from the shadows. In this most secure of residences, the living may come and go with purpose, but the dead remain. They walk the corridors, linger in the rooms, and watch over a house that has been the center of a nation's triumphs and sorrows. In the White House, power rules by day, but the dead walk by night. If you want more terrifying explorations of America's haunted history, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Some spirits prefer the curious, and the White House has never stopped watching.